Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. It is a depressing Monday, but that's why you guys come here to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of this episode, coming up short, man. Another disappointing. I feel like it's a loss of identity, Nick. Washington loses 14-7 to New York Giants. They go to 3-4. Thank you for joining us on this very depressing Monday, Nick. I'm sure you're going to bring up our stress level a little bit. How are you doing?
I don't know about that. It's been a pretty depressing 2 days for me. I watched Tennessee blow a 17-point lead to Alabama on Saturday, and then watched whatever the hell that was on Sunday. So it's been a rough 48 hours of football.
Yeah, we took our son to the movies for the first time a couple weeks ago. We went and saw the Paw Patrol movie. There's a part where the meteor hits the earth, and the whole theater's quiet at this moment. Nobody's saying a word. And my son out of nowhere goes, "What happened?" It's exactly what it was like yesterday watching that game, Nick. Yeah.
Yep.
And that being said, let's. Who were the highest and lowest rated PFF play that PFF graded for Washington yesterday in the loss?
Yeah, the highest was Chase Young by far. He had a 90.0 overall grade, and he kind of seemed to be the only one that really dominated that kind of poor Giants offensive line. Sweat was close, 78.7. St. Juice was 81.7, which surprised some folks after they saw Hyatt kind of beat him deep twice. But he also had 3 pass breakups after that.
Yeah,
so
he made a lot of plays on the ball yesterday.
Boosted the grade back up. And then, Jonathan Allen, 72.9. Then on the offensive side, Terry McLaurin, 71.5.
Nice. Yeah, so speaking of Chase and Montez, obviously there was a lot of discussion over the weekend about, and even recently, about their contract extensions and will Washington be buyers or sellers? So what's your opinion on, first of all, what's your opinion on this front office as far as, probably because they're not going to be here at the end of the year, what's your opinion on them making moves as far as like trading guys away or bringing guys in? And to bounce off of that, what's your opinion of the futures of Chase and Montez with this team?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, the whole scenario that this whole kind of organization has found themselves in this kind of like lame duck year where everyone kind of knows what's going to happen at the end of the season. I mean, I think we kind of all know that coaching staff might be going, maybe some of them stay. Front office is going to be changed dramatically, and I think they need to do that because I think there's just been too many misses in free agency and in the draft to kind of keep rolling with the same crew. And as for Chase Young and Sweat, good organizations realize where they are at this point, and they realize what they're going to do to best, kind of suit them going forward. If you know that you're not going to re-sign Chase or Sweat, then you should be doing everything you can to get as much, trade value back from them. If you know that you're going to re-sign them, then okay, you don't need to do that. But again, it's tough because this front office is not going to be here next year. So do I trust them to kind of get the best value out of Chase Young or Montez Sweat? I'm not entirely sure. There's not going to be much you can get for both of them because, again, it's going to be kind of like a rental, and we don't really see those sorts of trades in the NFL like we do with, the NBA or the
baseball,
MLB or NHL. Like,
Right.
You don't see rentals very often, so what you can really expect to get from Chase Young is going to disappoint a lot of people.
Right.
Yep.
So it's such a tough spot they put themselves in. We all know this team's not winning the Super Bowl this year. I mean, I think we all knew that going into the year. And at this point, you have to kind of realize in what this game and the Bears game have showed Washington, and what it should show a competent front offense, is that this team's not winning anything this year. And you should do whatever you possibly can to get as much out of it. It's just a very awkward situation with what's going to happen this offseason. And we kind of all know that they're not going to be here. So it's really tricky.
Yeah, I don't like it. I want it to stop. I want to keep all of our good players.
It would be nice. That would be nice and easy if they would just play for free.
Trevor, why don't we
That'd be
just turn
sick.
salary cap mode off? We'll be fine. But so I don't know if you've heard about this, Nick, but a lot has been made about Sam Howell's sacks. Did you know that? That's something that hasn't been talked about enough. the Giants definitely got after Sam. How did Sam fare? Were any of them his fault by chance, or was that mainly on the O line?
It was mostly on the offensive line, and
Take
it's
backs that
funny
up.
because yeah, I wrote an article last week talking about how the offensive line has been, pretty good compared to what fans really think, and that it's really kind of mostly been on Sam Howell. And then this week, the offensive line plays terrible, and none of it's on Howell at all.
And
Just
everybody's
kind of
like, "I
how it
knew you were
goes.
always wrong, Nick."
I know.
Last time I
It's
listened to
just
you.
that's why PFF just sucks, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this one was on the offensive line. We talked about it like before the show started. It looked like Nick Gates and Sadiq Charles they've never seen a stunt before. They couldn't pick it up. It happened multiple times where they just were not on the same page, could not pick up the stunts, and it led to some pretty easy sacks for them. I don't know who's making the calls at the line of scrimmage in terms of setting the protection, if that's Gates the center or if it's Howe, but they got it wrong multiple times, and it led to a lot of free rushers when you had the right number of people protecting. They had 7 people protecting, and they sent 7, but there's still someone unblocked because they're not sliding the correct way, and it's a pretty obvious decision to slide the way they should have, and I was able to figure that out, and I'm not the smartest around. So
Yeah, you don't give yourself more credit than that, Nick. Come on. But so that being said, like going into this game that Wink Martindale loves to blitz, that you have the most sack quarterback in the NFL on a record pace. Do you think this was a game plan thing at all, or do you really just think this was like on field, they just missed stuff and people just didn't do their jobs?
I think it's a bit of both. I would have liked to see a lot more screens, quick game, just something to kind of keep them on their toes so they can't send it every single time. Roll them out like they did a lot in the third and fourth quarter. They did it a ton, and it worked out well. It's finally when you got to see them really drive down the field.
Especially
They
on
didn't
that
do it enough
last
in the first
drive.
half.
That last drive in the
Yep.
fourth quarter, I think they had like 4 or 5 different rollouts on that drive.
They did it almost every single time, and
Yep.
it kept working. I mean, it's stuff like that where I just kind of wish they would kind of adjust quicker, or going into it, know that this is Wink Martindale. He's going to blitz your face off, and he's going to do it over and over and over again, and he does not care. So it just kind of seems to shock them every single time they play the Giants and Wink Martindale's defense, and I don't know why. But then also some of it comes down to, like I said, execution.
Yep.
Gates and Charles were poor in pass protection. They didn't set the line the correct way. There was some missed assignments from running backs as well, and it was tough. I think it was a bit of both. I kind of tweeted that I think this was a terrible game plan, but rewatching the all 22 and all that stuff, I think it's more on the players kind of executing. Would I have liked, a little bit more of a change going on early? Yeah, but I think again, you also have to execute in the NFL.
Yeah, and this is what I was kind of seeing in the preseason with these blitzes that they were failing to pick up, and saying, look, somebody's going to see that, and they're going to harp on that, and that's exactly what Wink did. And like, to your credit, Nick, a lot of times when rewatching the game, you see 2 linemen blocking 1 guy, or 3 linemen blocking 2 guys, and there's an extra free guy coming, and where's that being communicated, right? And it's not at the moment. But that being said, how did Sam Howell do? Because he was 22 of 42, 249 yards, 1 interception, has a rating of 60, but they were 1 for 15 on third down, Nick. That's not a recipe for success. Talk about Sam Howell's performance in this game. It's one of those bad ones, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough. You might be able to kind of convince me on a few sacks where he could have gotten the ball out, but again, I don't really chart any of those against him. There was quick pressure, blown assignments, stuff like that. Sacks weren't really on him, but there were still some pretty bad throws and decisions. I mean, the dropped pick 6 by Thibodeau was insane. We shouldn't even had a chance to really even tie it at the end. That
so
was
funny though that he dropped that. Nobody.
That was one of the worst. That was
Couldn't
one of
have
the
happened
worst.
to a better person.
Yeah, he doesn't even know who Joe Thomas is. Like, come on.
There were a couple other we charted him with 3 turnover worthy plays. I think there was one where there was the crosser in like the first quarter that the DB just kind of undercut and he threw it right at him, went right through his hand. I can't remember the third one. There's also 3 big time throws that we graded him with. The 2 to Terry, and then there was another one to Curtis Samuel. It was a corner route.
Yep.
I think towards the end of the second quarter that went right through Curtis Samuel's hands. I mean, it's a tough catch along the sideline. You've got a DB right there in your way, but it was a perfect throw. So we're going to still grade that as such. But the overall grade was 44.7 because those turnover-worthy plays are going to bring it down. And that one to Thibodeau was a -2, which is the worst grade we give out to anyone, is a -2 on a play. So it's tough to kind of recover from that. But I think the second half, it was nice to see him bounce back, but really didn't have much of a chance in the first half.
Yeah, it was just a poop show all around from start to finish, to be honest with you. But speaking of start to finish, it's been a 7 week sample size so far with the offense and Eric Bieniemy. Where would you kind of grade, or how would you kind of what's your opinion on the offense so far and Eric Bieniemy as a play caller? Because obviously a lot of people are uh, talking about how it's kind of been like a 3-to-1 pass ratio, and it needs more balance. And it kind of seems like the Eric Bieniemy, what's the word I'm looking for?
Honeymoon.
The Eric Bieniemy honeymoon. That's it. The
Yeah.
Eric Bieniemy
You're
honeymoon
on your
has
honeymoon
worn.
right now. You're supposed to be.
Yeah, my brain is on a honeymoon right now. Yeah, how the Eric Bieniemy honeymoon seems like it's worn off so far through 7 weeks.
Yeah, this is kind of what I expected. I mean, you've got a young, not rookie, but young quarterback who's now 8 starts in his career now. And it's kind of what I expected. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be a lot of growing pains, especially with an offensive line that is not great. We all knew that going into the season, except for apparently the front office. We all saw that there was going to be a lot of problems on this offensive line, and I would, again, when I talked about the game plan before, I would like, Bieniemy to incorporate a little screen game, get Dotson, McLaurin, Samuel, all of them involved early, quickly, just get it out, get it to them. It's an extension of the run game. These screens, these RPOs, these quick passes, it allows you to kind of keep the defense honest and not let Wink Martindale, who he would do it anyway. He's going to keep blitzing no matter what you do. He will keep blitzing, but make him pay for it. And they never did that. I mean, it's week 7. It's kind of like you said, the honeymoon period is wearing off for Bieniemy, and I think I think it's still too early to say he sucks or anything like that, or Sam Howell's done or anything. But it's not looking great. It's been pretty rough. I think he's just a little too slow to adjust at times. But there's also some really good stuff there. I love the concepts he has, and I don't know if that's an Andy Reid thing or whatnot, but I love some of the concepts and designs that he draws up. And so again, I know it's tough. People want to just either fire him or promote him to coach or whatnot. But
they want to fire everybody, Nick.
Yeah.
They want to fire everyone after every loss, and then you win a game last week and everyone's promoted and everyone's great and stuff like that. And I wouldn't be shocked if they go out and beat the Eagles next week. I know that's going to be weird, but like this is just kind of what Washington does. Like they could have beat them, and they should have. They went for 2, whatever, a couple weeks ago. So yeah, it's just what we should expect for Washington. It's going to be up and down. None of it makes any sense, but that's the NFL.
If this truly was Washington, they would beat the Eagles and the Dolphins, if we're being honest.
Yeah, probably.
And I know we touched on him a little bit, but there's been some chatter about Chase Young, just the way that he's playing. It seems like sometimes when Chase wasn't getting sacks, it was like Chase doesn't get enough sacks. That's his job. Now Chase is getting sacks, and people are like, but he's not doing some of the other stuff. And it's like, what? You can't win right now. What is going on with Chase? What did he do that you saw that impressed you, that graded him so high?
Just quick wins. I mean, that's what we're grading. Really, it's something that I don't want to sound like I'm a know-it-all, but the average fan doesn't really kind of grasp really with pass rushing and pass rush wins and stuff like that. If you ever take a stroll out into Steelers Twitter, they go absolutely nuts about pass rush win rate because we are very high on Myles Garrett and we aren't as high on TJ Watt, and they think TJ Watt is Jesus reincarnated. So it's very hilarious watching all that sort of stuff.
No.
But Chase Young,
Pittsburgh.
I mean, the sacks.
They don't overreact.
The sacks will come. Pressure rate, pass rush win rate. It's all predictive of future sacks, and you will have some like he did the first one he had. It was just basically an unblocked pressure that he just kind of cleaned up and basically touched Tyrod to the ground. Those are easy sacks that you're going to get. He just keeps winning on a consistent basis, and that's what you want to see from someone like Chase Young. And it's kind of giving me flashbacks to his rookie year. He's just being very dominant on that right side. The splash plays will come. The pressure rate, win rate, all that sort of stuff is very predictive of that sort of stuff, and it's something that I've been pretty impressed with how he's come back.
Also, remember that was the knock against him for a few years. It was like, well, he's not getting these sacks, and it was like they'll come eventually. Like he's not getting a lot of these BS sacks that people get, and like eventually they'll come because other pass rushers are talented. That'll knock
A lot of
quarterback around.
sacks come from somebody else winning.
Right.
That's just kind of how it works.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of sacks that come from someone else gets quick pressure and they roll right into Chase Young or they roll right into someone else. And that's why, again, I love PFF grades and pass rush win rate and all that sort of stuff because it's the best way to showcase who's actually winning their block. And some fans don't care. They'll always think of, sacks and forced fumbles and all that stuff is more important. But predicting future success is very important, and that's what it does best.
Yeah, nobody knows about sacks more than Reed here. Obviously, it's always a benefit of somebody else, right, Reed? Now, to
Very
wrap
weird
this up,
skin.
Nick, I only have a couple more questions for you, sir. One player that took this loss heavy, more so, I think a lot of people probably did, but Jonathan Allen as well. But Jahan Dotson, he had the drop at the end of the game. He was sitting on the sideline there for a little bit. Talk about Jahan Dotson, because a lot of people are writing him off, saying, oh, another Ron Rivera draft pick not performing. But, I feel like, dude, Jahan Dotson, he's not having a great stretch of games right now, but he's still a very good football player. Kind of talk about his play so far.
Yeah, he's getting open, and I don't think it's not like he's getting completely locked up or anything like that. He is getting open. Mark Bullock wrote a great piece on why Jahan Dotson, we shouldn't really worry about him yet. The drops two of them. It's a bit of a problem, but it's also kind of highlighted because, it was the last play of the game and there was another one that was supposed to be a really big play. It's not that big of a problem for me. I'm still going to always bet on a guy that gets open over, who doesn't get open essentially.
What if the person doesn't have any hands, like physically, and they can
that could be tough. It could be tough to, catch the football. I mean, if he gets open and he doesn't have any hands, that's a problem. If that ever happens in the NFL,
that wouldn't stop Reed.
If that ever happens in the NFL, I will tip my cap to you and say you won the argument. Yeah. Absolutely. But it is a tough catch. It's just highlighted by the fact that it was 4th and 5. It was a little bit behind him, but he'll tell you, every wide receiver will tell you that's got to be caught. It's just unfortunate. They should have never even been in that situation. Only scoring 7 points and having to rely at that point. You should have never put yourself there after the first half that they have. So I'm not going to blame the entire game on Jahan Dotson. I will blame that one play that he should have caught it.
Yeah, he should have, and I'm sure he'd tell you that too. He had 5 receptions, 43 yards on 8 targets. Heating up a little bit, but we need a little bit more production out of him. But now, my next question I have for you, kind of talk about the rookies that played in this game. Quan Martin was one of the highest rated by Pro Football Focus in his game so far. Emmanuel Forbes had, I think, 7 snaps. But, the other guy is Ricky Stromberg, who came in for Sadiq Charles at left guard. From what I saw, he actually played pretty well. So if you could, Nick, please talk to us about the rookies that played yesterday.
Yeah, the Quan Martin thing is very weird. He comes in and plays 5 or 7 snaps. He's played 7 snaps last week, 5 snaps yesterday, and he comes in and makes great plays, which is why his grade is so high because it's such a tiny sample size.
He had the one tip pass early on in the game that was a fantastic play. Yeah,
so he's got. We literally credit him with 1 tackle and 1 pass breakup in the 5 snaps that he had. I don't know why he's not seeing the field more often. Yesterday he did get injured. He got rocked on that first punt return that they muffed after he hit the player. Somebody came in and his shoulder hit him right in the back of the neck. So I thought he was going to be out the rest of the game. He's making plays on special teams as well. You're usually hoping maybe the second rounder isn't just making plays on special teams, but he is making plays when he gets a chance. I'm not sure why he's not getting more of them. As for Forbes, he only played 5 snaps yesterday. I didn't really see anything from him. I don't think he was ever targeted or anything like that. I got to rewatch and kind of where they lined him up and whatnot. But as for Stromberg, it was up and down. There were some moments, if I'm remembering correctly, there was one, I think the first play he came in, he got whooped pretty quickly on the outside.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think he was pretty solid. He seems to be the kind of guy that's just going to always step in for any of the interior 3 if they go down, left guard, center, or right guard. I like him as a center. But, we'll see. Small sample sizes for all of them, but good for Quan Martin, meh for Forbes, and okay for Stromberg.
I agree with you there. Last question I have for you is kind of a difficult one. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer it. But everyone is complaining. people want to get fired. They want players to be replaced. My question to you, Nick, what is Washington missing in these games? I know there's a different issue every week, right? It's either the offense is not putting up enough points or the defense is giving up too many points or special teams falls through. It's always something going wrong. So what is Washington missing?
It's really just consistency from everyone. I think it's really, as simple as it is, it's just you got to do your job. Like, I mean, if the offensive line blocks how they should of this past game, we'd be talking about a lot different, story here. Then we can really truly evaluate Howell and whatnot. When the offensive line blocks well, Howell's running into sacks. It's never a cohesive unit. And again, when the offense is playing well, the defense is playing terribly. So you just need to all be on the same page for the first time. And that's really when you can truly kind of evaluate how good this team is. I just think there's way too many mistakes in terms of execution and all that sort of stuff to really, kind of succeed. And you're just never going to succeed with the amount of, blown assignments that they've had on the offensive side, really to kind of just see how they are. I mean, it's tough.
It is very tough. Nick, I can't thank you enough for stopping by here, being able to give us your intellect and so this sort of therapeutic episode here and being able to talk about this loss. Thank you for joining us, sir. Go and enjoy your Monday evening and enjoy Monday Night Football, brother.
I'll try my best. Hopefully Kirk Cousins doesn't stink it up again.
Well,
prime time Kirk.
Prime time Kirk.
Yeah, but whenever we say that, Kirk balls out.
Yeah, that would be nice. I need a lot of points from Jordan Addison, so that'd be pretty nice.
And Nick, keep being yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my hardest. It's nice of you to finally show up for one that I'm in.
Yeah, I know.
You missed like the past 4 that I've been on.
Now you jinxed it, Nick. Now he's got to go.
Yeah,
now he's got to go. Nick, have a good night, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, see you, fellas.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Nick Akridge for Pro Football Focus. That was an ugly showing from yesterday, boys. Before we get into our opinions and the fan questions, we got to hand out the game beers and we got to hand out chores. So if there's anybody that deserves a game beer, I know there probably isn't that many. Who's getting your game beer, Reed? Who's getting your Bud Light game beer of the week?
Scary Terry for shitting on Deontay Banks all game. The funniest thing during the game was towards the end, Sam Howell targeted him in the end zone, and it was just like an overthrown pass, and Deontay Banks pulled the typical cornerback. And it was like, bro, you did nothing. You were about to be burned. If that pass was on target, Terry would have caught it. But anyway, I'm just happy that Terry did that because all week we heard Deontay Banks is a stud, and he's could be good. But old Terry said, you know what? Hold my beer.
Yeah, he did say hold my beer. I think Tress Way deserves a game beer for how he performed. I thought Quan Martin did a great job on special teams at coming in defensively when they needed him to come in and do something. Benjamin St. Juste, besides the 2 big throws that he had, I thought he had a relatively good game, being able to come up and make the plays on the ball and everything. It's just unfortunate where they are. Terry McLaurin, 6 receptions, 90 yards, and 9 targets. He led the team in all 3 of those categories. Did a very good job. I find it hard to be able to hand out game beers for this, to be perfectly honest, just because of how bad of a showing that was offensively. If you go back to look at the offensive plays in the first half, there's only 2 drives where they got more than 15 yards. 15 yards or more. That's it. And one of them ended in an interception, which is the crazy part. Everything else is either negative yards or within 0 yards to 15, and which is putrid. And that's my big dilemma here. Is we all want to point blame at one or the other, but my whole thing is up until this point, there's no consistency in what the problems are. And it just seems like there's a falling out somewhere. And I know we want to say execution, we want to say coaching, but those run plays in the second half, they work. Why weren't they working in the first half? And that's execution on my end. That's what I think. What is the big difference there? And look, we don't need to be getting in therapy yet. Hall, do you have any game beers?
Yeah, the guy that's been pretty consistent throughout the year, week 1 through 7, is Cam Curl. I think he had 3 tackles yesterday, 2 assisted tackles. And it might not show up in the box score how many tackles he got, but if you're constantly looking at where the ball's at and at the all-22, or just like I said, just following the ball, you're always going to see Cam Curl. You're always going to see number 31 flying around or somewhere around the ball. Or he's going to be up in the box fighting off a block, getting to the ball. So, again, he's about to get paid. Hopefully that he gets paid here. And, yeah, Cam Curl, as always, Drink up, my dog.
Also,
Yeah.
I think the most impressive play from Cam was I think it was in the first quarter or whatever when it was Tyrod who slid or whatever who was getting brought down and it looked like a penalty at first, but Cam pulled up and he didn't let his helmet contact him. So, and it was like what a heads up play by only Cam would make that play. It's such underrated shit like that.
They threw a flag
on
on it. They realized that only his shoulder touched him. It's like, okay, we
and they're
can't
like,
be doing
he
all
didn't
that.
lead with his head.
Now, let's hand out chores real quick. First, mine I'm going to give out is Jamin Davis. Jamin has played well at times, but then giving up that reception to Saquon for the touchdown, missing the tackle on it. Not only allowing the pass, but missing the tackle, allowing him to go for extra yards. I tweeted this before the game yesterday. My keys for Washington, one was tackling efficiency, not allowing easy yards, especially on Barkley, and that's what Jamin did for that play, and that's obviously a huge difference in this football game. That touchdown was monumental.
Yeah, if this was a Cavs competition, I'd be giving Sadiq Charles a beer because dude's got some great calves on him. But dude, what was that, Sadiq? We're all pulling for you, and you pull that shit. What was that? Come on, get it together. But I don't want to tell him to do chores because he'd probably beat me. So I guess what are you gonna do?
It is whatever. Hall, anybody?
Yeah, I said Thursday whenever someone asked the question, who needs to be on their A game or who needs to have like a good game for them to win? I said the O-line because of Wink Martindale and how he's going to send the blitzes from all over the field, pressures from all over the place. And they literally got their asses whooped from the start of quarter one till the end of quarter four up front and on the line and out-coached by Wink Martindale and the Dexter Lawrence and everyone else up front. So chores for the entire offensive line. Like you talked about, the first half, they didn't have a drive more than 5 plays. That is literally some like Little League football
I'm pretty
stuff.
sure they had more.
It's bad.
I talked about this yesterday. I'm pretty sure they had more sacks than positive yardage or plays that are over 10 yards in that first half, let alone in the entire game. And that's what the big concerning thing to me here. But let's not get too let's not get too depressed here. But on Twitter, I had asked everybody, all right, give me one positive takeaway from yesterday's game. If you're watching this, you want to give us one positive takeaway. I know it's hard to do right now, but give us one positive takeaway. So I'm going to rip off some of them that we have been. And I asked sarcasm. Brought in, like, we accept it. We love sarcasm on this show. Mm-hmm. We celebrate humor. We like to have a good time. All right.
Did anybody say Magic Johnson? I'm sorry.
This first one from Ken Johansson. Ricky Stromberg played 32% of the snaps yesterday and was able to get some valuable playing time. Good job, Ken. Coach Greg Curl said we shut him out in the second half. Very, very true. And the one touchdown that was given up off of a turnover as well, obviously that's the one that Saquon was given. But no. Actually, no, that was later on. The first one that was given up. The next one was from the M. Sensei. He says, none of the sacks were Sam's fault. Agreed. Tim Meek said Tress averaged 51 yards on 10 punts. That's not cool, Tim. Commander Nunzi said Chase looking more like himself than he has ever been. I do agree with that, but I do think Chase can do more. There are some other times where he's not getting home, or Montez had a chance for a couple sacks, wasn't able to come through. But it's hard to blame the defense. I've heard this argued all day today.
They only gave up 14 points.
Yeah, it's really hard to get on them because they did what they were supposed to do. They held the game
close. What's funny about that? Like, real quick, I was listening to Grant and Danny on the way home from work on Friday, and they were talking about Brian Baldinger and how he had some audio. Like, he was with PFT on his podcast, and he asked him about the D-line, blah, 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 blah. Pretty much he said, long story short, that Chase and Montez have all the talent in the world, and it's about them. And there's also been, like, rival, like, coaches and executives say that they take plays off and they're not really like the hardest of players, like blah, 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 stuff like that. Then you get to this Giants game, and what was happening in the beginning of the game? A run to the opposite side of the field. What do you see at the bottom of the screen? Just good old 99, just kind of walking around, just moseying along. And look, he wants to be talked about as one of the greats and be one of the greats. You see guys like TJ Watt. They're sprinting to the ball, trying to get a strip sack. You see guys like Myles Garrett.
He has to do that to make up for that clutch.
I'm about to use Myles Garrett, but so
but he's basically white too, except for.
I knew you were about to say that.
He's a nerd.
He said he's basically white. He would smack the heck out of you.
He would beat the shit out of him. Oh my god.
No, but look, my point is, it's like you hear some of the stuff that other executives and
right.
coaches say about them, and
You're
then
right.
you actually kind of focus on all that during the
That's
game, and it's like,
100% true. Yeah.
I
It's like,
mean,
where's the effort
No,
24/7?
to your
but then
point,
you see him
Hall.
come out and get and then there's like other times where he does run to the ball and he's kind of just standing there watching the pile, like
You're right.
it's like, dog, get down there, get dirty, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But
And to your point, remember in his rookie year, remember that force fumble he had on Joe Burrow. What
effort
was he doing?
plays
That
when
was effort.
Yeah.
thank you.
He
That's
was
my point.
Sprinting to the
That's
ball,
my
right?
point.
He could make that click. Maybe that injury had a lot more to do with this stuff. I know that like you can't use that as an excuse, dude. You're whatever, but like seems like he's almost playing nervous to do that. Like you're right, like diving and just running, chasing plays down on the other side, doing whatever he can. Like that is frustrating. I know what you mean, and that's definitely something that's missing that he excelled at his
And
rookie year. And
I
then the
could
injuries,
see,
and it's like,
and I could see how people are saying that he's not going to the full extent, maybe only worrying about getting
Right.
sacks to be able to get paid, which I do understand. But I'm not
well,
out
you
there.
understand
thought-
because you're all about
my
catching
thought
sacks
was-
too. So it's like,
My thought was, oh, the report came out about,
Mhm.
oh, there's been no contract extension talks, and they're thinking about like they're gauging trade value. So in my mind, I'm thinking Chase is like, oh well, if y'all trying to trade me off or like you don't
Facts
want me
need to
here, like
pay.
why am I going to go 100% for y'all right now if y'all aren't 100% for me type thing? And honestly, that's been some of the rumors since he's been drafted. Is he really all in on football, or is he all in on what football does for him on the outside? You know what I'm saying? So
that's fair. I would 100% agree with that take. I definitely agree with that.
I wholeheartedly agree. Now, this next positive take was from Reginald T. Skinner, who said, "How will learn from this?" Absolutely right. We need the consistency, right? And this is one of those situations where Howell can learn. He missed some touch on some throws, but for the most part, the kid has a lot to learn from this game. Obviously, being a film junkie, we know that. Good job, Reg. Brooklyn Bourne said that Ron and Jack will be gone after this year. Commander Sean from Florida said his few positives: Cam Curl still that dude. Tressway kicked the shit out of the ball, and Chris Rodriguez runs damn hard and will be a great replacement for AG. Chris Rodriguez did run the ball very well, and I think the big discrepancy is just the difference in running style with Chris Rodriguez and the others. He doesn't wait, doesn't hesitate. He sees it, he's comfortable with it, and he runs.
he falls
through.
forward. Yeah.
Simon
Jesus,
Oliver,
yeah.
dang it, dude. He said the uniforms looked good. Come on. You're right, though.
I mean,
that's
valid
messed
point.
up.
Yeah.
Joe Hall said Tressway was a beast. That is true. Tonio said Stromberg, Young, and Sweat. I agree with you there. Positive from Charlie Bunce. I quit on them so much earlier this year than in the past. No stress for the holiday season. Come on, man. Just wait till they beat the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dolphins, and they rope you right back in, just like golf, my brother.
It happens every time.
Yep, and then Butter Knife Jr. said defense actually shut shit down in the second half and only gave up 14 points. Very, very true. And then Harry Morgan said, I had to do a shot of tequila every time we scored, and I hate tequila. That is a good positive to take away from the game.
Except
Now-
for then you have to deal with the feeling sober. And then you're like,
That's also true.
And we want to hear from you guys in the comments. You guys always make us laugh with your responses. So give us one takeaway in the comment section of the game from yesterday. I know it's hard to do, but look, man, let's leave on a good note. All right. This question from the Colonel. Reed, let's look at some positives. Was Scary Terry a stud or what? And Chris Rodriguez was our best back yesterday. Chase Young had 2 sacks. We seem to be missing one elusive ingredient where we could be more consistent and string together some consecutive wins. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, like we talked about, like it's not like there's one glaring weakness. I mean, never mind the O-line, but like it's not like there's like one part. Like it's not like the defense just sucks or the offense just sucks. Like they've both shown at times that they can, like once they hit that even keel, maybe they'll start winning. So I think they will, because I think that they can be a good team still. But yeah, I mean, dude, I was super impressed with Terry. I loved him and Deontay Banks yapping the whole time, just knowing that Terry was getting the better of him. That's the only bright spot. Like usually I wouldn't care, but I was pumped about that. Definitely love that. Love that for you, Terry. But yeah, but if this team can just kind of find that medium and like just all play the same level every game or for a few games, they'll win some games. But it's tough to watch when they're not, you know.
Yeah, and it's honestly, what are they missing, Colonel? Like to be more consistent. That's the crazy thing is, like, for me, if I'm going to be perfectly honest here, for the offense and defense, I see a bunch of individuals who aren't losing as a team, aren't playing as a team, and aren't winning as a team. And that's like probably the most concerning thing for me, because it's not. The reason why I say that is every single game there's something new, right? It's not like they are grabbing a hold of this team and like you see them kind of molding themselves, right? It's almost like, where is the answer coming from? And that's probably the biggest concerning thing for me, is it doesn't seem like there's an apparatus. There is a sort of
no
organism
identity.
that is controlling things behind the scenes to say, we got this, don't worry. It just seems like a bunch of individuals showing up to work that don't really talk to one another, just trying to figure it out every week. And that's probably the most concerning thing for me. I just feel like there's no cohesiveness between any of the groups, any of the units right
Which is
now.
crazy too, because this offseason, like all we heard about was like how close this team is, like how they're all playing with each other, how they're best friends on the team, how they do all this. And it's like everything that we saw during camp and everything, and I know it's just training camp, you can't put all your eggs in that, but like it's completely different from what we're seeing out there.
And
on
the
field.
one
like
thing
even as far as Jahan Dotson being like he's
Yeah,
Sam Howell's
that's
favorite
true.
target, he could be a number one wide receiver this year over Terry. It's like everything is just kind of like falling apart. It's
Right.
like, what the
And like
hell?
they gave up 6 sacks, right? Like obviously
Yeah.
we already went into this game knowing, and a lot of that was on the offensive line. But they also had 10 penalties for 75 yards, which was uncharacteristic. They were a bottom 5 team heading into this game in these penalties. And a lot of them is not like you can blame it on the refs, where these are false starts. And this is a veteran offensive line. Charles Leno got some false starts. You had Sadiq Charles with his lapses in judgment on some of those stunt plays. Nick Gates having a horrible game himself. Then Sam Cosmi having a false start along with Wiley. These aren't rookie linemen. This is a veteran group. Everything is falling apart here. And I really do honestly question, Colonel, the loss of Chris Harris, the loss of Pete Hayner and John Matzko. I think those are really reaping its ugly head right now in these groups, because they don't seem to have a full grasp on everything that is happening to them.
Yeah. What's missing? I would say it's what's been missing for 20 plus years. And I wish I knew the answer to that, because I would have put it out there for someone in the front office of the organization to do so they can fix it. Because it just seems like year in, year out, no matter who the coach is, who the players are here, who's in charge of the front office, they play down to their competition and they play up to their competition. They play one good half of football. They play they play one bad half of football, whether it's the first half or the second half.
And that's
And
ridiculous.
Yeah.
and that's
John
my
Allen's
point. That's
completely
like,
right about that, dude.
to answer the question, I don't know what's missing, because
Right.
like Reed said, coming into the season, it was like everyone that went out to training camp, like the ex-players like Torrey Smith, who's around the area, like used to play for the Ravens, was out of camp a lot and was like, yo, the Commanders are going to surprise a lot of people this year. Everyone on Good Morning Football, the shows like that, were talking about like, who's a sneaky team in the NFC? Like, if Sam Howell can put it together, like, watch out for the Commanders. And it just seems like every single time this team had some type of speck of expectations on them. And it's not just this year. It goes back to the year after
It's been like that our
2020.
whole life. It's been
Yeah, it's been at the year after 2020, after they were coming off the playoff win against Tampa Bay, or the playoff loss against Tampa Bay, and going back, like you said, 20 plus years since I've been watching this team. Basically,
Yeah.
whenever there's a smidge of expectations on this team, they fall on their face, they fold like cheap chairs, and it just goes downhill from there. And
Honestly, I feel like it's because
unfortunately,
they play as individuals. It's not a
yeah,
team.
and look, like I said, unfortunately, it's annoying, and I'm tired of getting embarrassed by teams that are inferior to us. But at the end of the day,
worst teams in the NFL.
yeah, but look, at the end of the day, I've come to realize maybe we need to stop looking at like, oh, these teams are inferior than us and blah, blah, blah.
100%.
Maybe we are those teams. We're one of those teams. And we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we're inferior to those other teams. And we need to start being better than what we've been and what we are, because to lose to the Bears like that and get embarrassed on national TV, and then lose to a bunch of backups and second string dudes on the New York Giants who are like down in the dumps, like literally down in the dumps. And these teams are using us as springboards to better their seasons. And here we are. Just it's frustrating. I don't even know.
If there's any player on the team that is actively wanting a replacement of leadership, you better be careful about that, because I'll tell you right now, as soon as that new guy comes in, the bigger crabs get picked first. Do you know what I'm saying? And they will not wait a damn second to get rid of you in a heartbeat. The good thing about Ron Rivera is that he wanted to make sure we were keeping the good, productive guys here. A lot of guys come to the NFL and say, I don't want to win in spite of you. because I don't want the old guy to get your credit. So I'm going to ship you out. And that is going to happen here. So if there's any player that wants it, you better be damn careful, dude, because you're going to be the first route that gets picked up, and it's not good.
Also, I know this isn't necessarily a hot take, like people have been saying it, and like I kind of avoided it, but like Rivera definitely doesn't seem like Rivera right now, right? Like, I mean, we can all agree on that. It's just always on the sideline with his arms crossed. It's like not talking to the guys at halftime. It's like he knows, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's not a hot take.
Honestly, going into the season, it was one of the
Definitely
things where like he's already been through this before, so like he knows what the end result's going to be.
Yeah.
So like I'm not going to say like he's just going through the motions, obviously, because I mean, you saw him fired up,
doesn't it?
You see him fired up on the sideline when they made the bad call. He's yelling at the referee, but the Brian Robinson intentional grounding call. He's yelling at the referees. The guys come back from the break saying that he was giving the referees the entire TV timeout. So like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, he's checked out, he doesn't care, blah blah blah. But like, I will say that it's been it's been 4 years basically at this point. I think that the message in the locker room is becoming a little bit stale because
yes,
day in and day out, week in and week out,
that makes
they're not getting up for these games that they should be up for. They're not prepared. They're not coming out ready to go. And I just feel like the message is getting stale because it's the same results year after year after year.
And that's my whole point is in saying that, look, you can question that message, but you have to understand when that message gets replaced, that sender of that, they're going to change and they're not going to want you around. And that's why I agree with you in that breath to say, I don't think this is Rivera not caring anymore. I think there is a major disconnect between staff and player. And that's what I kind of mean.
Look, and players know themselves, like there's a change coming. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like players know how it is when new people come in, they want their guys. So like, and that's why I feel like once things start off slow and kind of like go downhill, I think the players are kind of like, well, here we go again, like another mediocre season
because you don't
same
know if they're
message,
retain you,
like new season, same message, same results type thing, and they're just kind of like, well, the season's shot, might as well just wait for the new guy type thing,
And that's the unfortunate part is that they're not getting up for these games because they shouldn't need Rivera to get them up for these. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, they definitely should for sure.
Because regardless of what happens with Rivera, you're still working for a job, dude, just like we heard about the Cardinals. Yeah, they might be trying to tank, but the team isn't. The players on the field aren't. They're still trying to put out good game tape. And that's the crazy thing is they're not coming out like that. And it's specifically on the offensive line. They come out timid. They come out soft. And the craziest part about all this, Hall, is that this is the healthiest they've been on the offensive line, the healthiest they've been on defense, and this is the worst they've looked.
Right.
To your point.
Maybe checked out was the wrong word, but like, you definitely him going in there, like having EB in place and like all these rumors about EB taking over the head coach. It's almost like this has been like he's known for a while. And like I think you guys were right, like for the season to kind of go the way it has, he's just like fucking. He's like me during school. You know what I'm saying?
We got to go rapid fire. We got a lot of questions. This one from Tony Franchise on Twitter, Hall. I have come to the conclusion that our team just isn't that good, and we're on the same level of the Bears and the Giants, to your point, Hall, that you were saying earlier. I look at the rest of the schedule and see maybe 2 more wins. How many do you see?
I said
10.
I said after the game, they'll somehow do the good old Washington special where they'll pull off a couple wins they're not supposed to. They'll end up with 6-7 wins just outside the top 10. They'll pick 12 to 14 like they usually do, and we'll see. But I'll give them technically on paper, I can see, I don't know, like 2, maybe 3 wins, but I'll still somehow give them. They'll pull out. Well, that's 6 wins. Yeah, it's probably like 3 wins, 2-3 wins.
I agree with you. I think all 10, dude. I think they can win every game. I don't care. I just feel, I just feel like the consistency is missing, right? Like I feel like they have a chance to win these games, but it's like when they actually play to that level, and that's the craziness is you shouldn't be needing that at this point from this football team. That is very concerning. But if you do get the good, they can beat every team.
That's my point, where they do this every year. They start off slow. Everyone turns on the team. I hate this team, blah, blah, blah. They'll put together 3-4 wins in a row, and they'll get back into contention just to fall off on the back end and disappoint everyone once again.
And then miss out on an offensive tackle prospect.
Let's go to the Discord chat server. This question submitted by Tim Towner. Thank you, Tim. He asks, wonder if that is what Kyle meant when he said we, quote, look like we were running around bare-assed in a cornfield, unquote. Tim, all I'm saying is if you don't understand what I mean by that, go running bare-assed in a cornfield backwards. Let me know how it works out for you. And that's how we kind of
Kyle,
played in this
Kyle
game
just likes
yesterday.
to imagine the players doing that, so that's why he said it.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it felt like, dude. Like this, yeah. There was just bad news all the way around. Now, this next question is from from Chris Comerton. Why does our coaching staff not learn from their mistakes, like not game planning to the opponent's weaknesses, and continue to use our same game plan every week, no matter who the opponent is, but expect the players to learn from theirs? It's a good question.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes down to like you don't want to give up on the plan that you've worked so hard to kind of put in place, and for you to be like, look, this is going to work. Just trust me. Just stick with it. We'll get it. Will work. But yeah, eventually something's got to change. And I mean, say what you will about Jack Del Rio. I know everybody hates Jack Del Rio right now. I understand that, but Jack Del Rio has been good at that throughout his career, like making adjustments mid-season or whatever he's got to do. And kind of worked out yesterday. I mean, the defense, I know that we shouldn't have lost to the Giants, but he did do a decent job, as he should have, against backups. But it does get frustrating because I know what you mean. Every week, it's either EV's not making adjustments or Del Rio's not making adjustments, and it's just like, what is going on? You know?
I'm not even gonna blame the coaching staff on the on the adjustments, Chris. I know what you're saying, and there is a point with Jack Del Rio with this, right? I understand what you're saying, but my whole thought process with this is not per se on EB or Jack Del Rio. I think it's more based on execution, dude. Like, I understand what you're saying by players. Like, how do we expect the players to learn from theirs? And I understand that. I get it wholeheartedly. But when you go into these games, how many times do you need to start slow to understand that you cannot do that anymore? Like, the coaching staff is not making them start slow. They're not the ones. They're having them beat on double moves and getting chewed up in other ways. Do you know what I mean? Like, at some point, the players have to be accountable for how they're performing on the field, because at this point, it's not X's and O's. It's an effort level kind of thing as well. And I understand I'm kind of pointing blame on the players. It's everyone involved. I get it. It's just there seems to be a sort of lackluster, timid introduction into these games that puts them behind the eight ball. And it just, like Hall said, one good half, one bad half. And typically, more times than not, it's one bad first half, which everyone's been saying. And it's something that they have to get out of their skin, dude. Because at what point are you going to say, we got to stop doing this? Or are you going to come out with your hair on fire? I have yet to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to be what did you say? Go ahead, Reed.
Oh, no, I was just going to say everybody always seems so deflated except for Nick Gates, because Nick Gates goes out there fighting people and shit all the time. It just, so far, he hasn't been very good at football. But I still love the guy. I still like him. I have faith in him. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, that was going to be my point, kind of, is like, you see the first half, usually they're like, everything is going to hell and everything's going wrong and can't get anything going. And then the second half, they come out, they make adjustments at halftime, and then they play a pretty good second half, and they find themselves either winning the game at the end of the game or coming back in the second half because of the adjustments. So they do make adjustments. The problem is, and the problem has been since year one to year 4 right now, is they make the adjustments way too late.
Yeah.
Like you said, Jack Del Rio has been known to make adjustments mid-season. It takes about 4 to 5 weeks until the defense finally turns around and gets to playing better. You could say that against Atlanta last week was the turnaround game. They only allowed 14 points to an NFL team. Like I said earlier on Twitter, 9 times out of 10, you allow 14 points to an NFL team. That's below the league average of points. You're supposed to win that game 9 times out of 10. So it's just, there's never been the only time they played a complete game was basically against Philly, and they still lost that game, which they should have won at the end of this game. Yeah. And they were dead and dull in the third quarter. They've not played a full 4 quarters of football from week 1 up until now. And frankly,
they need to stop feeling sorry for themselves, man.
They say they know. They say they know what a team is and who a team is after week 5 or week 6, whatever it is. Well, at this point, we know who this team is. They're a team that starts off slow, and they come out in the second half and try to get themselves back in the game after they've already dug themselves into a hole that more times than not, they're never going to get out of. Because at the end of the day, I would love to be one of those teams that can dig themselves out of 14-point holes and 17-point holes. We've never been that team. And honestly, I don't think we're ever going
to do that.
Thank you. We've never been that team, and I don't think we're ever going to be consistently that team. So, like, you got to put yourself in front of the 8 ball instead of behind it constantly. And at this point, like I said, they've constantly done this from year one up until now. So I don't think it's ever going to change at this point.
Right,
I
and
love
my
this
whole thing
Hall.
is like maybe
I
the
love this
coaching
version of
staff,
Hall.
maybe the
Philadelphia.
coaching
I
staff,
said on Thursday, if they lose this game, I'm coming on this podcast and saying horrible things about
Yeah, I
everyone
love
on the
it.
team.
and like to your point, Hall, maybe the coaching staff is trying to call those plays to be aggressive early on, to not be put in those situations, right? But there seems to be a lackluster of an effort of kind of fire to start these games. Like I don't know if they're all hitting the pen beforehand. I don't know what is going on.
It's
But we
legal
need
in
to-
New York, so it's possible.
Dude, we need to stop it, whatever the heck it is. Now, this next question, Reed, is from Andy Lockhart at Discord chat. Oi! The 1 Point
Oi.
Safety Show. Thank you, Andy. Do you think Ron has sabotaged the Commanders, knowing full well that he will be fired during or after this season? Just look at the free agent list for after this season. He also did something very similar in Carolina. It makes you wonder. I don't think so at all. I think Ron Rivera probably has more respect for himself, along with Eric Bieniemy. I would never expect them to sabotage themselves.
No, yeah, he didn't. He's not sabotaging the team.
He's not going to sabotage himself, but I will say it kind of seems that no matter. I mean, I would say the shininess that is Ron Rivera that's been kind of heightened by the Cam Newton 15 in 1 year, and he's been a coach of the year, 2-time coach of the year, and all the other stuff off the field. I think that's kind of losing its shine to like the national media people, because I think they're now starting to see they're like, okay, this team has talent. You're in year 4 and you're basically in the same spot. So like, what is going on? So, I mean, look, I don't think he's sabotaging it, but I do think that, like I said, I just think that he knows his fate at the end of the year is more than likely he's going to be not here next year. So he's kind of just, like I say, he's not there, but he's there. You know, if that makes sense.
And go. I will also say real fast, when we hired Ron Rivera, my friend made a good point to us where I was like, he was brought in to change the culture, and he was like, because the Panthers have been known for their culture, and I was like, damn, that kind of stung, because I was like, that's kind of true in a way.
Well, it's crazy because they were like known for like a good defense. So like, I mean,
known
we've
for a
been a
but
pretty
they were
good
very-
defense, but
Remember
like
the
They were known for
They were
bad
known for, like-
O-lines. They were known for.
But look, the wild thing is though, I'm like, he also had like legit like Hall of Fame players like Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly and Julius Peppers.
Cam was an
So it's
MVP.
like
Yeah.
I'm just like sitting here like Cam Newton MVP, like Steve Smith like towards the latter part of his career. So like it's just like, damn, was it really like Ron Rivera and the coaching and like all that hype, or was it really just like you just had balling ass players, and when some balling ass players got old or left, here we are with this Ron Rivera. It's like,
All right, now this next question from Deluxe. Hall, rapid fire, real quick. This from Deluxe. Is EB's play calling reminiscent of early Kyle Shanahan in Washington? Not the scheme, but more the hesitance to make changes due to belief that it will work, choosing scheme over circumstances.
I would say that it seemed like after the Denver week that he was kind of like, okay, this is what they're good at. This is what our weaknesses are. Let me build the game plan and mold the game plan around that. And ever since then, it's kind of just seemed like he's gone back to I hate to say it, but the Washington special of this is my system. I'm going to fit you guys and force you guys into my system instead of this is my system. Let me blend it with what you guys do best. So I don't know, man. I'm out of words at this point almost.
I think it's just all a bunch of individuals at this point. Now, read this next question from Jeff Miles, rapid fire. Everyone is saying trade Young for draft picks. Why not trade a 2nd to 5th round draft pick for an effing competent offensive lineman? You can't tell me it wouldn't be worth it, especially because the only offensive lineman that we have drafted that's good is Cosme.
Yeah, it's tough because like you have so many good viable defensive linemen. Like I love Chase. I love what Chase Young's doing. I hope that he stays here as long as he continues to produce. But it's like offensive line is so important, right? Like to your team. It's just kind of crazy that it's kind of just been overthought by this coaching staff and the regime and stuff. And like we put out there what we have right now. Like I don't know. Would I do it? If you can get a 2nd round pick for somebody right now, soon, like if we start losing another game or so, probably. I don't even care at this point.
Trade deadline is after
Halloween, right?
After Halloween. Yeah,
So
it's
right
coming
after
up
the
this next week.
spooky season. But I do want to keep Chase. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Chase would make the most sense at the moment, just given how inflated it can get. But that's why we need more production out of Chase in order to get the most out of it, Jeff. Now, this next question from Tim Towner. Is it the coaches or the players in the Discord chat? It's everybody, Tim, and that's probably the hardest thing because you can't say it's just the scheme, it's just the game planning going into these games. It's much more so the execution sometimes. But then you do also see the scheme problems where they're rushing 8 and like we have set like 7 and the guys aren't matched up correctly. That shows you that they're not looking ahead to say this is what Wink is going to do. When he does it repeatedly, you're still not doing anything to kind of go off of that. And it took until to the fourth quarter, the last drive of the game, to really start running the offense like you were supposed to do the first 3 quarters. It's hard to be able to say who it is. I just think it's everybody, and I feel like and the biggest issue is that there's a huge disconnect because you don't know if the players are actually buying into what they're being taught. You don't know if the coaches truly believe and are confident in the players that they have at the moment, and that's the big issue. And that's why John Allen talking out is such a big thorn in the backside for the team right now because it still brings you that confusion. But obviously, John Allen was on with the Junkies today and said he still has confidence in Jack Devery and Ron Rivera, and I get all that. It's just those sort of things throw a cog in all of this, and you really start to wonder, is this turning into a volcano, an erupting volcano, or is everything okay?
Yeah.
Now, the
coaches or players of the Junkies probably blame the owner, right? That's what they've been doing since week 2.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. You guys want to comment on that? Do you think it's the coaches, players?
No, I mean, you said it. It's a mixture of both. I mean,
blame's going to fall on the coaches though first because that's just how the NFL works. That's how it happens.
Yeah.
But
at the end of the day, look, this is how I always looked at it. I've always looked at it. Yes, the coaches are there to put you in the best position to succeed. They're supposed to be the ones scheming everything up, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the players are the ones on the field. They got to win their one-on-one battles. They got to make their tackles and not have a bunch of broken, like, missed tackles. They're the ones that are blowing the coverages. They're not communicating right. So
plug their gaps and shit. They got to
exactly. So it's like, yes, coaches are part of it because they're the ones putting the game plan in. They're the ones calling the plays. But at the end of the day, if the coach calls the play, whatever the play might be, okay, now it's your job as the player to go execute that play to the best of your ability, and that is not happening at all.
No.
Wait a minute. Do you think that's what Ron Rivera could have meant when he said "do your job," or do you think he was taking a shot at the players? You know? Everybody got all up in arms in that. It's like it's fucking common sense, guys.
Yeah.
Look, worry about
everyone doesn't know.
Worry about your.
Everyone doesn't know what's going to happen with Rivera after this season, all that jazz.
Everyone knows.
Tim Towner asked, like, will he
I think Ron Rivera knows himself, too.
Will Rivera see year 5? I will say this. It would be smart for the Chicago Bears to bring him in. The Bears need help. They need some consistency and some fundamental stuff there in the front office. I'm not going to say head coach, but Ron Rivera could do some good over there. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. I'm sorry. This has been a kind of wacky episode. It's insane to where we're at the moment. They started 2-0, and now we're sitting here at 3-4 after losses to the Bears and the Giants, which is inexcusable.
Hey, but the good news is we are 3-4. Dan Snyder's gone. We knew that this was going to be a little.
You know what's wild though?
Stealing
like
my damn thunder, bro.
I had to, dude.
You know what's wild? Even like when we were like 2019 was happening, we were just going down, tanking with the ship, and everything was going to hell. Jay got fired. They were running the ball 50 times a game. Games are over in 3 hours flat. I don't even think the fan base was this mad and depressed and just up in arms as they are right now. And you know why? It's because they had the expectations put on them again, and they fell flat on their faces once again.
No, let's just be.
And the season's not even over. That's the wild part about it.
Be perfectly honest here. All the animosity for Snyder for the past 30 years has bled into now, because I even heard Danny Rouillet say it today, that Ron Rivera is still the last. Him and this.
Well, they've been saying that for a while.
The inkling of the.
They've been saying that
man.
for a while. That like this front office and the coaches are the last of like the Dan Snyder error. I'm like, I mean, they're not wrong. There's true. He hired everyone here, so like, yes. But at the same time, it's like,
Didn't he consult with Joe Gibbs? And that's all I'm saying is stop doing this, boys.
Well, look, the wild thing is, yes, it's funny because whenever Ron got hired, everyone was like, oh, what a great hire. Like, finally an adult. Yeah. Finally a coach that we can believe in. And then literally almost that very year, people were like, but then he had the cancer.
It was when Haskins is when he benched Haskins.
I was just going to say people, but then, like I said, people gave him that pass because of the cancer thing. And they were like, oh, they made the playoffs. Like, and then after 2021, that's when it was like, all right, yeah, the
Yeah.
fan base was
And-
like, nope, I'm done.
Before Reed stole my damn thunder, all I was going to do to send off this episode, if you made it this far, you are a damn champion. And just remember, at the end of the day, I know it's hard to do this. I just don't want everyone to be unhappy, going throughout their week just pissed off. Just remember, at the end of the day, grand scheme of things, that Snyder has sold this team. And now
That's
we
the
are in good
biggest
hands.
thing.
For the first time, we don't have somebody meddling, going to get a yes man. We don't have to worry about a Bruce Allen. We know that the people in place, whatever moves that they do decide to do, is going to be in the best interest of the team, not just be able to pump up their wallets and to get somebody in there who wants to do their bidding. It's just simply for the best football people possible. And just remember that we are in good hands from this point on. We're playing with house money. We could still have Snyder here pulling the strings, but he's not.
Right.
Okay, so
You'll
calm
realize we're talking like it's week 17 and not like week 7.
Well, but yeah, I know, right? But also,
down. Because
just
honestly,
remember once this
That's
free
where we're
trial-
at as like a team, as a fan base. Like,
because
no,
here
like,
in Washington, we literally panic after
all the
everything.
time with Chicken Littles. But also just remember, once this free trial run is over, guys, that's when the fun begins. That's when you start to rebuild, hopefully smart, and that's when you know what I'm saying.
Shut
so
up.
we're almost there at the end of the free
Yeah.
trial.
So the
We're
point
not
is,
gonna pay.
I'm
We're
not trying
gonna
to
pay.
I'm not trying to get a damn job with the team. I just don't want people to be upset because
I do.
you
I want
always
you
have
all
to
to be
remember at the
depressed,
end of the day, grand scheme, where this team is right now, and just know we're
So why do you say you sent your resume in if you don't want a job?
we're playing with house. We're playing with house money right now, and that's the best thing possible. Remember, just have a smile on your face, and we'll be okay.
I like being sad because it lets me know I can feel it.
And that being said, everyone that wants verified right now, just calm down, man. The Carolina Panthers already have Frank Reich on the hot seat. That's their second head coach since Rivera. We could be in a worse situation where they're about to fire their head coach, where they just drafted a quarterback in the first round, and now they're doing what we used to do. They're going to be hiring a coach who likes their quarterback, which is not the way you want to go about doing business. All right, everybody. We'll see you again on Thursday. Try not to get so angry. Chill out. It's all good. Be
it's
like
so funny.
Reed.
You know, by Thursday we're gonna be like, we're gonna win this Sunday. I got us. We have goldfish memory.
Yeah.
We all have goldfish.
And
memory
I
during
did
the
say
NFL.
on yesterday, I thought that the difference in the game was going to be the turnovers offensively. We did have one turnover, which led to 7 points for them, which was huge in the game. Got to limit the turnovers. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. Remember, please comment what one positive takeaway you're taking away from the loss yesterday. Unfortunately, 3-4. It's this Eagles week. It's a big one. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
What's the Lions OC? Ben Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for all you people that are like, Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
He's not coming here. I'm bursting everyone's bubble now. He's not coming here. The Chargers are going to fire their coach. He's going to LA. So just get that out of your minds now. I'm Hall. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk.
And kind of like the Commanders, I don't really have an identity. I'm just kind of here. 1 week I'm one thing, I'm another thing. We're the trans
title of this
franchise of the
episode is an
NFL.
identity loss. You're absolutely right. We have
We are-
no
we are
identity.
the trans team of the NFL. We don't
Seriously,
know
I'll
who
leave
we
you
are.
on that note. What is this team's identity? And
The
you
trans.
you
of the
should
NFL.
know your identity by week 8. I'm pretty sure. All right, everybody, we'll see you on Thursday. Washington football.
Big old question mark.
Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.